When you come into the world, we take on the identity of those who are more powerful than us. What we're looking for is a kind of person who is looking for meaning. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here?
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday Conversation. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I know that it's something that I should do. It is scary to do. It is not fun to do. It is good to do. Is the thing inside of me the thing that doesn't want to be here? That is the question. Because to me, it's an honor to be able to speak to people about life and about our Father, our Savior, our Lord. But I am also just learning who He is inside of me and how to communicate properly with Him inside of me. So no, I don't want to be here. I don't wake up going, oh, good, I get to go talk. I watch the talk. I watch myself. I get embarrassed. I listen to what I say. Sometimes I agree and I say, wow, that was pretty good. But I'm agreeing with Him inside of me, not me. So this morning, I was asking God to give me wisdom. That's all you can really ask for, is just give me wisdom. Because if you're asking, grant me this, grant me that, that's like Santa Claus. I want a new pair of shoes. I want a new car. That's not what it's all about. Wisdom, understanding. So my conscience, my little voice says, and it's said this a lot throughout my life, I'm right here. I'm right here. That's it. 3 words, 3 knowings, 3 little thoughts, 3 little understandings, whatever you want to call them. I'm right here. So I thought to myself, why is it that we as human beings are so full of distractions inside of our own head? Our own other voice, the alien within, drowns out that small, quiet voice. And I was thinking about the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka story. And there was a part in there where they all got the rules. Here's the rules. The rules are don't touch the walls, don't do this, don't do that, don't eat the everlasting gobstopper, all the different things they're not supposed to do. And if you haven't seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's just a fantastic movie, the original one. And at a certain point, one of these spoiled kids said, started singing this song, I think, I want this, I want that, I want this, and I want it now. And I remember Willy Wonka actually said, no, stop, don't do that. Don't do that. No, stop. He didn't try to stop the girl from doing her thing. He didn't yell and scream and say, don't do that. He just said, no, stop. Don't do that. You've been told you're not supposed to do that. That's kind of how our conscience is. It's a quiet conscience. And it's interesting because God doesn't want us to, I think, how do I say this properly? God wants those who want Him. And if we have to constantly be reminded. You know, I saw a friend of mine that I went to his house, and he had these little yellow sticky notes all over the walls, little reminders, literally sticky notes that said, don't do this and don't do that and don't do this and don't lust. And it was interesting. And I said, what's all that? He says, they're reminders because I keep forgetting. And I'm thinking, well, you're not really forgetting. You're not being conscious of your inner voice, because that inner voice will tell you, it will warn you very gently and ever so quietly, you shouldn't go that direction. You better stop now. You better say no. So I think the journey that we're on is a journey to hell if we do not seek our Savior through Jesus Christ. Because what are we here for? What are you here for? What is it all about? What do you want out of life? Don't you have enough stuff? Don't we have enough stuff? Stuff is not what it's all about. I'm actually getting repulsed by my stuff. It's like a ball and chain around my ankle. And I have nice stuff. So it isn't the stuff, it's my relationship with the stuff. What I was doing with the stuff when I got it. Glorifying myself instead of glorifying Him. So if you don't have a sincere heart and you don't listen to your conscience, then you're destined to the other side. You're destined to go to hell. Because what else is there? There's either heaven or there's hell. There's nothing in between. We're actually in the in-between while we're waiting in line to go to one of those two places. So I think that, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I believe that everybody watching this and everybody sitting here have been given something very special, an awareness. Your conscience is speaking to you. It's saying something's wrong. It's saying you need to do something different. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here or watching this today. What is that different you need to do? Do you need to be yelled at? Do you need to have a string tied around your finger? How many of us have tied a string around our finger in our youth, perhaps, to try and remember something that was important? To try and remember, don't, whatever. Don't eat that candy bar, or don't look at girls for guys. Don't get angry. Whatever it might have been, the little reminder, the little tie a string around your finger, or wear a bracelet as a reminder. Some people tattoo things on their bodies as reminders of things they did that they never want to do again, or things they shouldn't do. So I find myself yearning to find that quiet place inside of myself where, even though I know that, like all of you, there's an alien within, I know that. I think that is part of the journey here on earth, is to be able to cohabitate with each other and with the dark side that is part of us, that we have to just watch. And it's an interesting thing, because I believe that at some point in our life we can be free from that. But most of us won't be free from it for most of our lives. Although it cannot live in the light. So the more you get closer to the light, the more it recedes back into the darkness from where it came. So as I go through my life, I look at all the strangest little things that happen to me. people always giving me advice, trying to make me doubt myself. I have a brother that tries to constantly make me doubt myself, and I truly want to know the truth. I honestly and sincerely want to know the truth. So I'm willing to listen to anyone, even an angry person. I want to hear, are they saying something that is truthful about me? Are they saying some truth that I can actually take, even though they're angry, it's coming from the wrong place? Is there any truth in it? And then if I'm objective to it, I can see whether it's babble, as my father says, babble, 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 confusion, and I can just dismiss it and say, no, that's just noise. If there's truth, I can take the truth, dismiss the noise, not be angry. If you're angry, you'll never see the truth. If you react to it, you'll never see the truth. The truth will set you free. So is your conscience your guide, or is your conscience a pest? Most of our lives, the conscience has been a pest. Oh, shut up. I don't want to hear that. That doesn't serve me. Right? That doesn't serve me. You don't actually say those words, but that's what's happening when you deny your conscience, when you wave it off. It doesn't serve you. That's right. Your conscience is not supposed to serve you. It's supposed to shine a light on the path to serve Him. And I realize that if I just watch Trump, honestly, I feel like I'm watching a movie, an epic Cecil B. DeMille movie right now. It's like I used to watch The Ten Commandments, and I love that movie. And because it just had so many epic things that were happening. And if you watch it once or twice or 50 times, you notice more, because as you grow in your awareness and your conscience starts to show you different things. That's why they call the Bible the Living Bible, because you can read it 1,000 times and you find new things all the time that speak to you, or that are just historical, that make you go, wow, make you in awe of your Creator. But I'm watching this movie with Trump right now. He's winning, and he keeps on doing what he's doing. And they are, the other side, the Democrats are just burning inside. They're wriggling and writhing, and it's like, it's amazing to watch. Even you see little tastes of it. On the news the other night, there was a little thing where Shifty Schiff didn't want one of the other guys to get up, but he got up real quick and he says, Jerry. He's trying to catch him before he had the last word. There's so much dissension amongst the ranks of the other side. They're so infighting, and Trump's out playing golf. He goes and he has crowds of people that stand for hours and hours and sometimes days waiting just to get near him. And yet he's a sinner, just like us. Through his conscience, he hears his Lord and his Savior. Through his conscience voice. And if you drown out that conscience with all types of distraction, you'll never know what your true purpose is. You'll never be God's conduit. You will toil away your life doing whatever it is you do, and it may have a nice purpose. You could be a carpenter, you could be a body shop owner, you could be a tree trimmer, you could be a repairman of whatever it may be. But are you living your truest purpose? That's what you need to ask yourself. And can your life doing that job, whatever that job is, listening to your conscience, waking up, thanking God for that small, quiet voice every time you hear it, acknowledging it and thanking God. are you actually able to hear and then move on it? That's what is important in your life. Small kindnesses, holding the door open for an old lady or a young lady or whatever lady, gentlemen, cooking a meal for somebody who's sick. There's so many things we can do as human beings in service of others that we don't do because we're lazy, we're selfish, we don't hear the calling, we don't hear the small, quiet voice because there's a TV show on I wanted to watch. There's a bonfire I want to build and roast hot dogs with my friends and drink beer. Whatever it is, there's always something. Learning how to be a leader is what we should all be doing. Applying ourselves to the small, quiet voice inside of ourselves is what we should be doing. My one brother, I've been at odds with him my whole life. He's younger than me. My whole life, I've had something that pushed us apart. And I look at his words. He's a brilliant, brilliant thinker. The problem is, in my opinion, the thinking is not from him. The thinking is intellect, and the intellect plays tricks. And so when I receive an email or a message from my brother, I read it from a place of objectivity. So if you get an email or something from somebody who's angry at you, do you read it and get angrier and angrier and angrier? Does it build up inside of you like lava going up the lava tube and it's going to explode? I've dealt with that type of anger forever. But now I can stand back and I can see the lava tube filling full of hot lava that will kill anything around it. It's molten lava is molten rock. Nothing can live in that. And that's what evil is. Evil is like nothing can live in that evil, except it lives inside of us. It lives inside of us. And when you even reading just words on a page, you can get angrier and angrier and angrier, and you can feel it raising its ugly head inside of you. That's when you better listen to that small voice, Willy Wonka, that says, no, stop, don't do that. Because if you're objective, you'll hear it and you'll say, oh, I'm not going to react. Just words, sticks and stones will break your bones. Words will never harm me. But if you don't, they not only harm you, but there is a wave, a ripple effect of wickedness that goes out into the world like a atomic bomb that goes out over and over again. Waves of evil, reaction, reaction, reaction. So I take a step back, listen to the small, still, quiet voice that's in the background. Don't react. And then from that place of non-reaction, I can see it's just words. I can actually see a man in pain or a person in pain writing these painful words onto the page. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. And when the pain body is writing or speaking, if you're objective, you can see it. And what happens when I see it, then I become sad. And I want to say, forgive him, Father, for he knows not what he does. And even uttering those words inside of my own heart takes me further away from that pain body of the other man or the other person. And guess what? Their molten lava doesn't touch me. That's what I want in my life, is to be not a man that is non-reactive, because in life we react to things that happen to us constantly. You spill the coffee, oops, I have to react and move. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the emotional, internal reaction where you start to the atomic bomb has consumed you and you start another atomic bomb, and then you have thermonuclear war back and forth through the atomic explosions that are happening. That's what is destroying our world. But when I see this epic movie of this man who we have as president, who is clearly not perfect, I believe that his imperfections are what make him so good to all of us that love him, because we see he's just a man. He's a man who is following something that is a higher power than himself. He'll say it every now and then, but not too often. If he did, it would just seem phony. If he said, thank you, Lord Jesus Christ, in the name of God, I do this. If he did that like every single day, we would go, all right, we get it. The reality is most of that is very, very private. And in my life, I've kept it private until this very year, to the year 2020. And today, by the way, is 02/02/2020. We haven't had that type of a thing in 900 years. I saw that on Facebook this morning. The date is, today is like an interesting day in time, which means nothing, but in the scheme of things. But I realize that these things are very, very personal. As we go through our lives, I don't even know what to tell you about this thing. I have been carrying around a Bible more and more lately, and I feel a consciousness of it. I think I was on the radio, or maybe I told this story. I can't remember, because we're doing the Advice Line radio show now, and some of the stories, I don't want to tell them twice or three times. But I was carrying the Bible up to my office, and I had it under my arm like this. And there was a scuffle out in the street, and the police came, and they were arresting a guy. And I walked over to see what was going on, and it was down the street a little ways. And I'm holding my Bible and my cell phone and my cup of coffee, and I go, "What's going on?" And they said, "Oh, they caught somebody, and they had a scuffle, and the street's closed, and the cop cars." And I looked down the street, and sure enough, and then this young guy that's working for me said the F word a couple times. And I took my finger and I said, "You won't say that around me." And then I realized I'm holding the Bible. And I thought, isn't that interesting? It's just a book. It's just a bunch of paper. On it are some pretty important words. But I said, "Oh, and I'm holding the Bible." And everybody started laughing, because I didn't have to be holding the Bible. But I don't like to use that language, and I don't like people around me to use that language. And he was a young guy, and he said to me immediately, "Oh, I'm sorry." But see, as a man of 60 almost, a couple of months, my life should affect people in a way that they come toward the light, not toward me, toward the light that is in me, that is in them, and they recognize it. So this young man happens to be enamored with me right now. And when I said that to him, I could see he was humbled, like he forgot himself. And I want my life to affect people in such a way that they move toward what I'm moving toward. And if they want, they can even draft me. That's a NASCAR saying. Get right behind me, and there's a slipstream of air. And so I think that's what a lot of people that have followed my father have been doing for years. The problem is, at some point in the race, you have to move out and go around the car to win the race. So if you're in the slipstream, not that we're in a race of life or anything, but at some point you have to go out and put the pedal down a little harder and move on by the teacher, in essence. Because the reality is, we are all responsible to be the leader. That's a better way of putting it. Not to win the race, but to lead. And so in that moment, I was carrying the Bible, and I thought, people are seeing me carry the Bible. Now, I've always been a man of the world, and not in a negative way, but a very international person. I travel to China, I travel to London, I travel all over the world, and I do my job, and I have a very fun job. I have the kind of job that is enviable by many men because I get to play with cars. That's always been my passion. But all of a sudden now I'm carrying the Bible. But the interesting thing is there's not a whole lot of difference between me with the Bible and me without the Bible. I don't go to parties. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't carouse. I don't use foul language, for the most part. But that Bible is like that string around the finger that is reminding me, and I'm not using it for that, but I just happen to be, it's my study right now. I've heard, I want to be in the Word. So this morning I got up and I read a couple of pages, and then I thought, I've read that before. But I kept reading, and then I thought, but I've read this before. And then I just kept reading, and then I saw something I hadn't seen before. See how my own mind wanted to take me away, because what I'm looking for is insight that I didn't see before. I'm looking for little insights that I never saw before. So just because I've walked down a path in life before doesn't mean that I can't this time in my now more conscious and aware life walk down that same path and look around at the trees above instead of looking down at my feet the way I always have in my life. I've always been looking down at my feet. If I was an archer, I'd be pointing the arrow down at the ground. And now I need to raise my sights and even raise them higher and shoot the arrow into the air higher. So I go down this path perhaps with somebody that I didn't like or didn't like me in the past. But now I have a little better understanding. So maybe I want to go down that path again. Don't let your own mind dissuade you in certain ways. The mind can play tricks on you. That devil, he is a crafty, crafty character. Because on one hand, I don't want to listen to the flotsam and jetsam, the babble that goes on from him. On the other hand, I want to be a adventurous man, a courageous man. I want to go in a direction maybe that I've been before. And this time open my eyes a little wider. Deal with people that I haven't dealt with right in the past. This time I can deal with them right. Sometimes it takes an apology. Sometimes it takes nothing. They see it in your eyes. But I've been carrying this Bible, and it's really interesting how the Bible not only affects me, but how it affects other people. When they see it under your arm. It's like, oh, Bible, watch what you say. Isn't that interesting how a book can have that effect on people? If a book can have that effect on people under a man's arm, why can't that man have the same effect on people just with his very spirit? And I think that's how we should all be, is that our very presence should, because we know what that book is full of, great wisdom and words of God, shouldn't a man also be full of great wisdom and words of God? And I think that's what my aim is in life, is to have wisdom from the Father in heaven and use his words, not my own. So no, I don't want to be here, but everything I just said, I don't know where it came from, but I do. Because I didn't prepare. My wife says to me, what are you going to talk about today? And I said, and she says, maybe you should, and I said, I don't want to maybe, I don't want to know. I just want to stand ready. I just want to show up. If I show up with an honest heart and an open mind, and a true desire to allow him to flow through me, then that's what'll happen. It's interesting too, as I'm learning how to say thank you for the tiny little voice inside that says, no, stop, don't go that way. I can tell the difference between that and the one that is screaming over here, look at me, taste me, have me, I'll make you great. They'll think you're cool. Look at you. Look at you. Look how good you are. Look how good you look. Look how good you sound. It's almost like, go away. Go away, babble, babble, babble. It's funny. Those are some of the things my father says now. It's babble, babble, babble. If you don't approach my dad now, my dad's like Yoda. If you don't approach him just with a open heart and a sweetness and a love that has no need for words, just good morning, he'll look at you, and as soon as you start talking, he may say, babble, babble, babble. In other words, don't make small talk with me. Small talk. So listen, the journey of life. People are like, well, that's no fun. That's no fun. What about skateboarding, jet skiing, motorcycle riding, race cars, and this and that, and football, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Babble, babble, babble. But God doesn't want us to have these boring lives where we just sit in a chair and read the Bible all the time. It's a beautiful world that we live in. Like I said, go down that same path. Go down that same path you've been before. This time, raise your eyes up. Stop watching your feet. I remember as a little boy, I'd walk along. I'd be looking down, watching my feet, taking the steps of life. And my dad would say, what are you looking at? And I'd look up and say, I don't know. He'd say, lift your head up. Look where you're going. Lift your head up. Look where you're going. We all spend so much time not wanting to look to the left, not wanting to look to the right, not wanting to look too far down the path because we don't really want to know what's coming. So we would just, I'll just wait until it happens to me, then I'll deal with it. If you open your eyes and lift your head up and look at life out there, you can see danger a long way away. A long way away. And you steer away from it. And I used to remember I was walking one time and I found a quarter. And I thought, oh, if I look down, I'll always find the money and the things. And so I actually used to look all at the ground where I was walking, scanning the ground for money. And one time I found $10 in the sand at the beach. I wasn't looking at the beautiful ocean and the waves. I was looking right at the ground in front of me. And I found $10. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And my little brother, Mark, he was like, I want $10. I want $10. It's not fair. And I remember my dad going, well, Alan found it. He found it on the ground. He says, be more aware and maybe you'll find something. And I remember thinking to myself, isn't that interesting? You know, we covet at such a young age. We covet what other people have. It starts at a young age. But I remember, and even to this very day, I'll be walking through the streets in New York City, and the funniest thing happened to me that taught me a lesson. And these things are coming to me. Look, I'm going to be 60 in June. They're coming to me at this age. I've been waiting my whole life to have consciousness. But I think my dad got to a certain point where I stopped just going to my dad and saying, what do you think about this, Dad? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? I started thinking for myself, which is what we all need to do. But I'm walking through New York City and I see a quarter in the middle of the street. Beep, beep, honk, honk, beep, beep, honk, honk, And there's a quarter in the middle of the street and I go like this. Stop. And of course, the traffic stops. No beeps or anything. And I look down and there's a quarter. And I look over, and before I don't want to get run over, and I bend down and I can't pick it up. It's mashed into the asphalt. And I looked, and it was a perfect quarter mashed into the asphalt. And I was like, there it is. I can't get it. And I stood up and I looked and I laughed and I kept walking. And I thought, isn't that funny? I'm not supposed to have the treasures. They're there to distract me from what I should be looking at. And I remember thinking about my dad says, lift your eyes up and look ahead of you. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. Now, I just like when you're aiming a gun, if you pull the trigger and it goes boonk and it hits below the bullseye so far that it doesn't even hit the paper. What do? You raise your gun up a little higher and you pull the trigger again, and then boink, it's now hitting the paper. I need to raise my sights even higher. Boink, because it falls as it goes through the air, right? So if you just use a little bit of the science of what's going on, you have to keep raising your sights. And that's how life is. You keep raising up your consciousness till you can hit the bullseye. And then all of a sudden you go, I got it. I have to not look down. I have to not aim down. Aiming down is like, I'm better than my friends, and your friends are a bunch of pot-smoking hippies. And then you come up a little higher, I'm still better than my friends, and your friends are a bunch of businessmen that are crooks, that are dressed in nice suits. And then you aim a little bit higher, and all of a sudden, you're starting to go, all right, now life ain't so easy because I'm not as good as I thought I was. The closer you come to the bullseye, the more you are called to be. The more you are called to listen to that consciousness that will show you the direction in life, steer you away from the crooks, from the pot-smoking hippies, from the foul-mouthed people, from the sex offenders that, are in your life. And I say that, an interesting one, the sex offenders may have never gotten caught. You may never know it, but you know it by what comes out of their mouth, how they talk about women, how women talk about men. I see these types of people, and those are another type of person that you have to keep up. Got to raise my sights a little higher because I thought these were good people, but they will show themselves to you. Shouldn't be talking about that when you're talking about sex offenders, if you know what I'm saying. They will show themselves to you with their words and how they think and what they do. And your conscience will guide you. Let your conscience be your guide, but you have to listen to it. So, back to Trump for a moment. What an epic movie. This will probably not air until after whatever's going to happen next week. Again, the date today is 02/02/2020. So, on this day, next Wednesday, something epic's going to happen. But for us sitting here today, there may be more in store on Tuesday and on Monday, and it's going to be interesting to watch. This is a movie of our lives right now, and this is historical times. I want to be a part of the good that's happening in these historical times. I know that our Father, my Father, our Father, for so many of you out there, He is your Father, and in a matter of speaking, He's your dad, your uncle, grandpa. I've heard Him called 100 different names of kindness, things friend, but He's laid out a foundation of answers in all His different books. The meditation exercise is how to come closer to yourself and how to be calm so you can hear that still, quiet voice in your heart. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we are all on this journey alone. You, your Father in heaven, and God. And if we don't understand that we are all supposed to be leaders, then what do you have but to be a follower? You should be a leader. We should all be leaders. All of us, man and woman alike, in our own way. Each and every one of us, in every deed that you do throughout the day, and every thought that you think, every thought that you say no to, you have to learn how to be a good parent to yourself. And then you can be a good parent to your children and their friends, and the ripple effect goes out. We don't even know how to say no to ourselves, yet we can say no to our kids. You're taking my stuff. What are you doing? It's easy to be selfish, but it's not easy to temper ourselves, to temper that alien within, because we don't know how to listen to the Father in heaven giving us signals. In 2006, I won the Baja 500 with perhaps the greatest Baja racer in history who died last year, Rod Hall. My job was to be a navigator at first. And when you're racing in an off-road race, you're wearing a helmet, there's no windshield, you're going 100 miles an hour through the desert, and there's giant cactus and things, and there's buildings, and you have to follow a map. And fortunately, during that time, we had a navigation system that even following the navigation system, the driver is moving so fast, he's just trying not to hit things, people. And I did see a person get hit and killed in the Baja 500. But the driver needs the navigator's help. And the navigator, the words don't matter, because he can't even think and process things because there's so much going on in his head as he's moving through life at the speed of craziness, because it's complete insanity when you're racing in the Baja 500. My job was to do this. You better go that way. You better go that way. You better slow down. These are quiet gestures. Quiet gestures. Now, I would say go to the left. Danger. But it was a dual thing happening. Because I don't know if he can hear me. I don't know if his brain is. But if the two match, go that way. If the two match, then he's going to take the right cue. And it was so interesting for me to think about life and death in my hands. If I accidentally was dyslexic for a moment, told him to go that way, and there's a cliff, we're dead. In life, God gives you signs that are outward. Danger, Will Robinson out there. But he speaks to you quietly in your heart. If you're not listening and watching for those signs, you're destined for disaster. If you're not moving towards listening to yourself, controlling your emotions, not letting them run away with you and give you wrong signs, then you ain't going to make it to the end. And if you do, it's going to be at the bottom of a ravine. All these little things in life are here to help us to understand that we have everything we need right inside at all times, but we tell it to shut up. We tell God to shut up because that's his voice. Shame on us. Shame on us. He gives us amazing books that lead us within. He gives us, even Eckhart Tolle, I mean, when he said the pain body, I went, oh, I get it. Some guy wrote from last week I was talking about Donald Trump, The Art of the Deal. And I said something like, well, really, and I've never read the book, but I get it. It's The Art of the Deal. He's like, you haven't even read the book. and he posted the book, but he misunderstood what I was saying. Because you can get any deal you want if you put your principles aside. You can make deals happen. I know that. I've done it. But at some point, what good is a bad deal? You can get all the deals you want. If you're at an auction and you raise your hand and you keep raising your hand, you're going to win. But did you get a good deal? No. It's all about knowing the value of what you're buying, the value of the deal you're making. And I changed it and said it's the art of the will. That's maybe a good name for a book, The Art of the Will, because that will that is not God's will is the will of the dark side. And I wasn't slamming Donald Trump. I was just coining a little bit of a phrase, because that will inside of you is the alien will. It's not God's will. You have to step aside from that will and accept His will. And then you'll hear that small voice that guides you in your life. You'll hear it and you will obey. That's what it's all about. To hear His commandment and obey without question. Because if you question it, guess what? It dissipates. If you question it, it's gone. Then you all of a sudden start to make excuses why it's not going to work and how it's not going to happen. And why would anyone? People are going to think I'm crazy, and on and on and on, and a whirlwind of thoughts. And then you even forgot what was asked of you, because guess what? There's only one chance. That you have now to wait till the next time. So when you deny His will because of the babble inside your head, opportunity lost. Opportunity lost. You must wait until the next time. And it sometimes can take months, years of your life till a new opportunity arises where you know in your heart that's God speaking into you and you move forward on it. I've had a few of those instances in my life where something happened where I needed to act quickly. And all I had to do was say, I'll do it. And then not let my pride say, look at you. You were the first to stand up. Nothing. It's quiet. Then you affect people with that ripple effect of goodness, because they see that, and they see there was no arrogance and pride. They just see the good man doing his good deed. That's what I want. I hope that's what you want. That's all I have for today. I thank Jesus Christ for giving me this wisdom today.